Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host Daniel Green, and today we have quite the interesting start to the news because I have been asked by one of my favorite authors of the indie scene to reveal their next cover, and by God, am I happy to do that for you. And so it is with great pleasure that I bring you the cover for Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong, coming out October 29th of 2024. Blood Over Brighthaven is described as the first woman ever admitted to a prestigious order of mages unravels a secret conspiracy that could change the practice of magic forever in this standalone dark fantasy from the author of The Sword of Kaigen. With cover design by Arushi Menon and an illustration by Elwira Polakowska. And I like this cover for a few different reasons. One, I am a bit of a clickety-clack hoe, meaning this typewriter is appealing to me. On top of that, I'm kind of seeing a little bit of a story through here that's just abstract enough for me to be really curious about what's inside, because yes, we have a typewriter, but it seems to be typing into a portal, and if I squint, I'm kind of seeing a fire face in that portal. Am I right? I genuinely don't know. I don't know anything more aside from the blurb that I'm putting on screen right now. And there's also these orbital patterns of what look like celestial objects, as well as the portal having these lines coming off that make me think of like a meteor or a comet. But Del Rey has managed to make this a bit of a ponder, because I'm imagining a story where someone is like magicking on a typewriter and seeing different things that are important, and maybe somehow sees this dark entity within a comet coming towards the world. Don't know if it's Earth, and the council in charge of this place wants it, but it's bad. That could all be wrong, but that's what a good cover does. It makes you kind of start going, ooh. But we're going from a first book to a final book, because we have also gotten the cover for John Gwyn's The Fury of the Gods, the final book in the Bloodsworn saga, with cover art by Marcus Huene. And now I get to ask my favorite question I have ever been able to ask about a series covers. Are you ready for this? Because it's a delight. Which is your favorite of the Goliaths, the kaijus, the big boys? For me, personally, it's the dragon. I know that's like the Starbucks answer, but big thickum dragon, me likey. But are you the biggest fan of the oversized dragon, good boy, or danger noodle? I actually want to see which is the most popular in the comments down below. Please let me know. And like and subscribe, because that's honestly how the channel does survive. But while we're talking about books with a certain badass bend, we are also getting a special edition release of Rage of Dragons. I'm actually super excited for this, because not only is Rage of Dragons like an early important book for the channel here, personal favorite of mine, I'm a big fan of Evan Winter as well, great guy, but now I get to say one of my favorite modern fantasy authors is stepping alongside me into the Wraithmarked space and getting their own Wraithmarked treatment. How freaking cool. Finally, in the final cover reveal news, I get to answer a question I got a lot here after my Grace of Kings review. And that would be, where did I get this edition? It would be from the Broken Binding. And if you are wanting this issue of Dandelion Dynasty, you are in luck, because they are actually doing a special edition of this special edition that is going to be the Midnight Alt Edition. And I am hoping that Broken Binding can find it in their hearts to send me the 4th volume of Grace of Kings in this edition, so that I can stop getting comments telling me I'm missing it. I know, and it hurts me too. Hintity hint. I don't know why I keep bullying Broken Binding into sending me books. That does not feel ethical, but I'm not gonna stop. And for those of you that care about the award season, we have gotten our finalists for the 2024 Glasgow Hugo Awards, and I will read the Best Novel and Best Novella categories for you now. And the nominations for Best Novel start with The Adventures of Amina El Sarafi, The Saint of Bright Doors, Some Desperate Glory, Starter Villain, Disagree, Translation State, and Witch King. The nominations for Best Novella are Life Does Not Allow Us to Meet, Mammoths at the Gate, The Mimicking of Known Successes, Rose/House, Seeds of Mercury, and Thornhedge. And hot damn, it isn't until you see these nominations stacked up that you really begin to understand how popular Tor and Orbit are in these spaces. well done, you two. And I'm just happy that the speculative fiction community as a whole has the Hugo Awards to set a standard for awards around the world to follow. Wait, what's that? What'd they do?
I hope you got some pleasure from it, because you have really screwed yourself.
Well, since that last organization is still on fire, I'm happy to say that a brand new award has entered the space for the indie scene specifically, and that is because we have seen the first ever speculative fiction indie novella championship name its first winner, and that would be Sarah Chorn's A Sorrow Named Joy. Described as, Joy desires nothing more than her husband's happiness. She spends her days creating the perfect life for him in their idyllic suburban home. Everything is neat, predictable, and in its place. When Joy finds a picture that hints at a past she cannot remember, the facade cracks. As secrets are revealed, Joy realizes her blissful life is crumbling, and to find herself, she must first lose herself. Perfect, after all, is only an illusion. So if you're looking to add a book to your TBR that has under 200 ratings on Goodreads, so you could really make a difference for an author here, go ahead and check this one out. Linked, as always, down below, as well as everything else we talk about here today. I bumped the mic with my chin. That is not professional. But before we get into possibly the most controversial story of the day, a quick word from today's sponsor. Psst, come here. Come here. I got a secret to tell you. Meet me down below. Hi. Okay, so look, it's super normal to become concerned about hair loss as you get older. With me, entering my 30s now, I'm wanting to take as good care of things like my teeth and hair as I can. And thankfully, Keeps is here to save the day. I mean, seriously, they've got it all covered. There's so much. And their treatments have been proven to be 90% effective in increasing your hair growth up to 35%. That's a lot of percentages. With, gratefully, most people seeing a difference in just 6 months. I know, for a lot of you, that's needed. We have very little patience in modern society, but this is not a social commentary time. I've been using their thickening shampoo, conditioner, and styling pomade. Look at this luscious hair. Look at it. Don't see the dandruff if I have any. They've helped over 1 million men keep their hair. They provide FDA-approved treatment options, as well as a 2-in-1, and it saves you from having to have social interaction with a doctor. You can instead just have discreet packaging delivered right to your door. I love that. I hate talking to anybody. Except for you, Kayla. I love you. So just remember, you're not alone, and you're not out of options, because hair loss stops with Keeps. For a special offer to get started, go to keeps.com/Daniel Green. That's KEEPS.com/DANIELGREENE. And click the link in the description. Don't rub it. You gotta do the back to the non-secret video. Now, please forgive me if I get anything in this next story wrong, because I just found out about it today and had to do some rushed research, but what I found was really interesting. And that is because after 50 years of delays, eat your heart out, George R. R. Martin, you'll never break that record, I hope, we are getting the last Dangerous Visions, the third and final installment of the legendary science fiction anthology series, with the project spearheaded by J. Michael Straczynski. But I hear you now, why, Daniel? Why is this so important? Well, the first 2 books in this series, Dangerous Visions and again Dangerous Visions, are seen now as foundational for the science fiction genre in terms of allowing authors to push the bounds, be more controversial, and that's what Harlan Ellison really wanted the third installment to be. But it was delayed for decades, and unfortunately with his passing in 2018, it looked like it may never come out. Many authors as well who had submitted stories had pulled them and published them in other ways, frustrated with the lack of movement from Harlan. Well, now, with a lot of those stories being replaced by entries from some of the modern science fiction genre greats, we are finally getting the last Dangerous Visions. And if you know me at all, you know any space where we're seeing old heads for the genres and new heads for the genres get to have their work side by side, where we can compare and contrast and just evaluate as fans endlessly, there's a good reason why this is something I am going to for sure be checking out, and I naturally want to pick up the first issue of Dangerous Visions as well and see if the controversial stories hold up today at all. Because, they sometimes don't, sometimes do. And I think that'd be a really educational experience. But keep in mind, this final version does have Harlan Ellison's editing still there. And J. Michael Straczynski is just trying to work to put the newer entries together so that there can be this completion to something that apparently, until his death, Harlan did want to see done. And you'll be able to check this out September of 2024. Believe it or not, I actually want to talk about superhero stuff. I know, crazy, but I got into it a little bit on my live stream where I was collecting the fantasy news, and I just want to put my thoughts on Marvel's rivals here, because I think this is going to be poo-poo. That looks like Overwatch. That's like Overwatch graphics. Am I wrong? This is Marvel's Overwatch. A bunch of heroes with various powers going up against another set of heroes with various powers. They just made their Overwatch reskin, for sure. I'm just surprised they didn't make it a collaboration. To me, that would be like a no-brainer. Like, Overwatch collaborating with Cowboy Bebop. Why wouldn't they just do an Overwatch Marvel collaboration and do it like that? That would be sick. Yeah, it reeks of out-of-touch executive, where it's like, we're Marvel. We can step into this space with our shooter and just outdo. No, you can't. And here's the thing, sad part. It would have been great for them financially, I bet, to put a collab with Overwatch out. Can you imagine how many people would start playing Overwatch, and Marvel would make money too through having a collaboration if they just added a couple heroes that are superheroes, or just provided skins that made existing heroes look like Marvel or DC characters or something. That would perform incredibly. This will perform like 5 people are going to play it. No, I think a lot of them will play it for a little while and then it'll die. It won't have legs. This is just something that'll be gone. You know what I mean? It's going to have 3 seconds of being a game people play and talk about. There'll be a tiny community that follows it forever, and then it'll die. That's my prediction. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware there are still mad Marvel fans out there. They have enough fan base to keep making money for sure. But I feel like the chokehold that Marvel really had on mainstream media and everything, that's slowly weakening and going away. It's always going to have a bigger fan base than it did pre the Marvel boom, though, of course. Oh, Daniel, you can only ever tear down superhero stuff. I absolutely can, and I'm actually thrilled to go ahead and put a positive superhero story in here today, and that is because, yes, we have gotten the Spider Within, a Spiderverse story for free up on YouTube. So if you are a fan of Miles Morales' Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, or just the character, superheroes, whatever, go ahead and check this one out. I haven't had the time to watch it yet, but I'm sure as gonna. After that large inhalation of superheroes, though, I do want to go ahead and take a fresh breath of Shire air. And that is because we have had our first look at Tales of the Shire, a game about cozy hobbit life, apparently releasing later this year, and we have been promised a trailer. I would feel like I'm missing out if I didn't cover this, because upcoming Lord of the Rings game, cool, but with the one deluge of what I would call not great Lord of the Rings content we've been getting recently, and I'm sorry, but I cannot really get excited about this. We have been covering here on Fantasy News for quite some time everything that's been coming in the fallout of that one leaked, I think it was, report from the people who currently own the rights for all this stuff, talking about how they just want to keep pumping out Lord of the Rings content. And since then, we have gotten a plethora of not quality Lord of the Rings things, including, the Gollum debacle. There was the Moria game, which I did play and had what I would call the acceptable amount of fun with. And with this not even being a trailer and instead just basically a shot of possible graphics, what am I supposed to say? It's just okay, this is probably going to be more of just them licensing the ever-living hell out of Tolkien's work, and who knows if it'll actually be worth their time. Fan-tastic. I always am afraid that I come across as one of these perpetually online weirdos who gets way too into franchises and this, but when you actually see the people talking about oh yeah, we are trying to milk this as much as we can, and then you after that get a series of things that are clearly not even up to par with Shadow of Mordor, where there's at least an attempt at honoring the grandiosity and specialness of Middle-earth, it just kind of kills it, right? Like, I can't get excited for stuff because it feels like we're in an era of mediocrity for Lord of the Rings. I mean, hell, this is a franchise that even the video game adaptations of the movie, something that's notoriously often terrible, were pretty damn good. And if you are perchance more into the niche areas of fantasy and science fiction, you might be thrilled to hear that the word Isekai has officially been added to the Oxford English Dictionary, with its official definition reading:
a Japanese genre of science or fantasy fiction featuring a protagonist who is transported to or reincarnated in a different, strange, or unfamiliar world. Also, an anime, manga, video game, etc. in this genre.
And for those of you who are more experienced with the isekai genre than myself, how do you think this definition holds up? Is it accurate to the current, I don't know, mold of what that term is actually being used for? Because, you know, language is surprisingly subjective sometimes and evolving constantly. And for those of you who like to get a bit of a challenge into your TBR to propel you all the faster through these reads that, let's be honest, you'll never actually get through all of, the official r/fantasy 2024 Bingo Book Challenge has begun. So if you'd like to go ahead and see how this works, get some details down, and gamify your reading, which is personally something I'm not into, but I absolutely understand the appeal of, go ahead and check it out, link down below. And for this final story, I am once again going to cut to me ranting live for you all, and that is because we are going to be getting a new Chucky movie. This has been confirmed by the original creator, Dynasty, which is just fabulous to hear. For those of you who don't know, there's been some drama in the history of the Chucky franchise, but surprisingly, the monster of Chucky, with the success of the recent show, is arguably in its prime. I'm not gonna say no, I won't say prime. I would say equaling its previous prime. I really like the Chucky show. Check it out if you've not. Chucky is the actual most consistently high quality horror icon compared to the other ones that have had endless sequels spewed out. Chucky stands head and shoulders above them in quality. Chucky's gotten bad, don't get me wrong, but Chucky has never not been at least reinventing itself, pushing boundaries, shifting between genres. Like, it is an interesting artistic experiment. As where like Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, they are just dumpster fires. Schlocky enjoyable ones. Jason X is the best Friday the 13th movie, don't get me wrong, but they are not actually of quality in the way that Chucky has consistently been. But before we get into the Indie Pub promo this week, I would just like to say the actual most important story of the day here is that fellow booktuber and author Brian Lee Durfee is currently in the hospital recovering from some medical issues and is out of surgery, thankfully looking better, but there is currently a GoFundMe to help deal with the result of America's healthcare system that is likely to be affecting him. And if you could give anything here to help, I absolutely have done so myself, and I encourage you to do so. Brian's a really good guy, and if you haven't checked out his channel, you should as well. But without any further ado, let us see a book from you, members of the Goblin Horde.
And today's Indie Pub promo is The Price of Power by Michael Mitchell, pitched as, for readers who love gritty heroes, badass heroines, a world with a muddy Boothiel feel, and a spiritual magic system that utilizes psychedelics. Prince Barrowdane could not hold back the darkness, not even in himself. He laid an innocent city in its grave and then died a hero. In his absence, war whispers across the land. Power-hungry Highborn dispatch spies and assassins to the shadows as they maneuver for the throne, while an even greater threat rises in the south. Monsters and cultists flock to the banners of a mad prophet determined to control reality and then shatter it. Destiny stalks three to the brink of oblivion, a dead prince that isn't actually dead. Barrowdane buried his shameful past in a stupor of drugs, drink, and crime, and now he'd rather watch the world fall apart than wear a crown again. An orphan whose hero's blood is forced to make a harrowing choice, betray her country, or sacrifice her first love. And a powerful seer who has no choice at all. Her grandson must die. If any of them fails to pay the price, the cost will be the world's complete annihilation. Check it out in the links down below.
But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Especially liking is how the YouTube knows I exist here. It helps a lot. And have a great one, y'all. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring today's video. And check out my books, Neon Ghosts or Lawful Times, if you have not already.
Goodbye.
And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier Patreons, Brett Swan and Johnny Reeds.